Stay low. Follow me. Have you ever been completely invisible? Not because you weren't in the room, but because someone looked straight at you and decided you weren't worth seeing? The morning it almost happened, Cole Hunter was already running 4 minutes late. He pulled on his gray hoodie, the one with the frayed left cuff and the small bleach stain near the pocket that he'd had for 6 years and never replaced. He grabbed his phone, his keys, his worn leather wallet that had been with him since before the money came, and he headed for the front door of his private estate just outside Scottsdale, Arizona. He looked like a man who repaired irrigation systems for a living. That was exactly the point. What most people didn't know, and Cole had no interest in changing, was that the Cole Hunter Group operated 43 flagship restaurants across the American Southwest, 3 5-star resort properties, and a commercial real estate portfolio currently valued somewhere north of $400 million. His Scottsdale estate sat on 6 acres with a private gate, a greenhouse, manicured grounds, and a 4-car garage that at any given time held a G-Wagon, a Range Rover, and a vintage Porsche 911 that he drove maybe twice a year. None of that was visible on his face. None of it showed on his hands, which were large and calloused in the way that genuinely wealthy men's hands almost never were. Because Cole Hunter had built those calluses before the money arrived, during the years when he slept in the back of a pickup truck in a parking lot off Mill Avenue in Tempe, Arizona, eating whatever was left over at the end of a restaurant shift and telling himself that the next idea, the next pitch, the next handshake would be the one that finally worked. He adjusted the zipper on his hoodie, picked up his bag, and stepped outside into the Scottsdale morning. The black sedan was already at the gate. He didn't make it 3 steps down the stone path before a voice said, quietly and clearly, "Mr. Hunter, please stop." He turned. Standing near the row of terracotta pots along the side garden was a girl, maybe 12 years old, her dark hair pulled back, her expression completely serious. She was the daughter of Ray Morrow, the groundskeeper who had maintained the estate for the past 4 years. Cole had seen her dozens of times, always in the same spot, sitting on the low stone wall near the greenhouse, drawing in a notebook while her father worked nearby. She had a stillness about her that most adults didn't have. She noticed things. She had never spoken to him directly, not once. "What's going on?" Cole said. "Please come here," she said. "Don't let the driver see you moving." Cole almost kept walking. He had a 9 o'clock call with the investment group out of Dallas, a site consultation in Flagstaff, and a full day built around a schedule that had been locked in 3 weeks ago. He walked toward her instead. She crouched behind the terracotta pots and pulled him down beside her with a grip that was much stronger than he expected. He pressed his back against the garden wall and looked toward the front gate. The black sedan sat there, engine idling. The driver stood beside the rear passenger door, one hand resting on the roof. "What am I looking at?" Cole said quietly. "That's not your driver," she said. "Your real driver always opens the door with his right hand. He keeps his phone in his left pocket. I've watched him arrive every week for almost 2 years." Cole looked at her. "And?" "That man opened the door with his left hand," she said. "And one number on the license plate is different from the plate I memorized." Cole looked back at the gate. Same make, same color, same tinted windows that his cars always had. He realized with a quiet jolt that he had no idea what his own license plate number was. There had never been a reason to know. "You memorized the plate?" he said. She reached into her jacket pocket and produced a small folded piece of paper. She had written 2 plate numbers side by side, with 1 digit circled in the second row. Cole stared at the paper. "There's something else," she said. Her voice dropped lower. Cole turned to look at her. She was still watching the front gate, not him. "Yesterday afternoon," she said, "I was sitting near the greenhouse while my dad worked near the back fence. I wasn't trying to hear anything. I was just drawing." "Go ahead," Cole said. "Your wife came outside with a man I didn't recognize. They stopped near the greenhouse because they thought no one was around." She paused. "I heard her say your name. So I stayed quiet, and I didn't move." Cole felt something change in the air around him, the way it changes right before a storm arrives. "She said once you get in the car, it's done," the girl continued. "She said by the time anyone starts making calls, you'll already be at the property." The man with her said the place has no cameras, no neighbors. He said they'll keep you there with no phone and no food until you're too weak to do anything. Then everyone thinks you just disappeared. Cole said nothing. They talked about insurance, she said. The man said, when you're declared missing, the money goes to her. She just has to wait. The Scottsdale sun was already warm, but Cole felt something cold move through his chest, slow and steady, like ice water. "Did you tell your father?" he asked. "No," she said. "If I was wrong, my dad could lose his job here, and if I was right, I didn't know who in the house I could trust." Cole looked at her for a long moment. "You have a phone?" he said. "I used my dad's," she said. "I recorded them." She reached into her other pocket and took out an old Android with a cracked screen protector. She pressed play without hesitating. The recording began with the dry sound of Arizona wind moving through grass. Then the soft click of the greenhouse door. Then a woman's voice, calm, controlled, the voice of someone who had been rehearsing this conversation for a long time. "Once he's in the car, that's it. He won't make it to the airport. By the time anyone starts calling around, he'll already be at the property." A man's voice answered. Practical, unhurried. The driver knows the route. No phone, no food, no outside contact. He stays there until the situation is resolved. Short silence on the recording. Then Cole's wife spoke again, and her voice had changed. The warmth had left it entirely, like a light being switched off in a room you thought you knew. "I gave him 17 years, she said quietly. 17 years of charity galas and board dinners, and showing up to every function alone while he was somewhere on a private jet closing another deal. If I walk out of this marriage, the lawyers say I fight for years. I'm not doing that." "You won't have to," the man said. "The policy is $22 million. Once he's declared missing, you wait the standard period, and it's yours." Cole pressed stop. He sat very still behind the terracotta pots on the grounds of his own 6-acre estate, and he did not speak for 10 full seconds. Then his phone buzzed. Diane. He answered. "Cole." Her voice was warm, exactly as it always was. "The driver says you haven't come out yet. You're going to miss your window for Flagstaff." "I'm coming," he said. "Forgot something inside." "Okay, hurry," she said lightly. "You've been home all week. I thought you were getting restless." "Almost ready," he said. "I'll be right there." He hung up and looked at the phone in his hand. Then he looked at the girl. "What's your name?" he said. "Lily," she said. "Lily." He handed her father's phone back to her carefully. "You did the right thing. You came to me first." He held her gaze. "I need you to keep that recording safe. Don't play it for your dad. Don't play it for anyone in the house. Don't play it for anyone at all. Can you do that?" She nodded once, the way someone nods when they've already thought through all the consequences and made their decision. "Stay close to your father today," Cole said. "Don't go anywhere on this property by yourself." He stood up, brushed the dust off his jeans, and walked back into the house. Cole sat in his home office with the door closed, something he almost never did, and called Spencer Wald. Spencer had been his financial attorney for 11 years. He had structured the acquisition that turned Cole's small chain of Southwestern lunch counters into a restaurant group with a chef's table waiting list that ran 6 months long. He was careful, methodical, and one of 3 people on earth that Cole trusted without condition. Spencer picked up on the second ring. "You're supposed to be on the road," Spencer said. "Change of plans," Cole said. "I need you to pull everything on Diane's insurance arrangements. Life policies, beneficiary designations, any coverage changes in the last 12 months. All of it." Pause. "That's not a normal request," Spencer said slowly. "I know," Cole said. "I need it done quietly. And Spencer, I need to understand what happens to a life insurance payout when someone goes missing. Not confirmed dead, just missing." A longer pause. "Cole, what happened this morning?" "I'll explain everything," Cole said. "Right now I just need the information." "Give me a few hours," Spencer said. "And Cole, be careful who you talk to until I call back." Cole hung up and sat for a moment in the leather chair behind his desk. He looked at the photograph on the shelf. Him and Diane, 17 years ago, standing in front of the first property he ever bought, a small apartment complex in Tempe. She had been the only person who believed in that deal. She had sat across from him at a folding table covered in spreadsheets and said, "I think you're right about this one." He reached over and turned the photograph face down. and turned the photograph face down. Then he walked back out to the garden. Ray Morrow was on his knees near the rose bed, replacing a section of irrigation line. When Cole approached, he looked up and got to his feet. "Mr. Hunter." "Ray," Cole said, "I need you to do something for me." Ray waited. "For the next several days, I need you and Lily to stay close to the main house," Cole said. "If anyone you don't recognize comes onto this property, anyone, you come to me directly, not to Mrs. Crane, not to any other staff, me." Ray studied Cole's face the way a man does when he's deciding how much to read into what's being said. "Yes, sir," he said. Cole walked to the stone wall where Lily was sitting, notebook open, pencil moving. "What are you drawing?" he said. She turned the notebook slightly. She had sketched the front gate, the sedan, the driver's position beside the car. The proportions were careful. The details were exact. "So I don't forget," she said. Cole looked at the drawing for a moment. "Can you draw the man you saw with my wife?" he asked. She thought for a second, then nodded. "I saw his face clearly." "Take your time," Cole said. "Small details matter." She began to draw. Spencer called back at 2:15 that afternoon. Cole stepped out onto the back patio and closed the glass door behind him. "You were right to ask," Spencer said without any warm-up. "There is a life insurance policy in your name. $22 million. Diane is the sole primary beneficiary." Cole looked out across the estate grounds. The rose garden, the greenhouse catching the afternoon light, the long stretch of desert grass running to the back fence. "The coverage amount was increased 8 months ago," Spencer continued. "The paperwork came through your household accounts office. Your signature is on it. But, Cole, I want you to think about whether you actually remember authorizing that specific increase, because the request originated from Diane's personal email, not from your financial team." Cole thought about the stack of documents that appeared on his desk every week. The contracts, the renewals, the property filings, the things his assistant pre-marked with colored tabs so he could sign in the right places without reading every page. He had built a system because the alternative was spending every working hour reading paper instead of building things. He had trusted the system. "Who is the man?" Cole said. "Name is Brett Calloway," Spencer said. "No criminal record, but significant financial problems. Failed business venture in Phoenix, a loan default last spring, personal debt that's been building for about 2 years. He's the kind of man who is very susceptible to a proposition that promises to solve everything at once." Cole said nothing for a moment. Then he said, "Spencer, I want to set something up. I need a few more days, and I need you to not go to anyone yet." "Cole, I know what I'm asking," Cole said. "But if we move too fast, Diane denies everything. She's been the face of 3 charity foundations. She sits on 2 nonprofit boards. She knows how to talk to people and be believed. If I go to the police right now with a recording from a 12-year-old girl and a license plate number, she says, I'm paranoid, I'm overworked, I'm in the middle of some kind of episode, and she might actually win that conversation." Spencer was quiet. "People who think they've already won make mistakes," Cole said. "I want to give them one more opportunity to make theirs." A long pause. "That's a dangerous game," Spencer said finally. "Getting in that car without knowing would have been more dangerous," Cole said. Cole spent the next 2 days doing something he had not done in years. He was present. He ate breakfast at the table instead of standing at the kitchen counter with his phone. He walked the grounds in the evening instead of taking calls until 9. He sat on the stone wall near the greenhouse with Lily for 20 minutes one afternoon while she showed him what she'd drawn. Detailed sketches of the estate, the garden beds, the gate, the cars, a visual record she had been keeping for weeks without anyone asking her to. "Why do you draw everything?" Cole asked. "My dad says the garden changes a little bit every single day," she said. "Most people don't notice, but if you draw it, you have to look closely enough to see the difference." Cole sat with that for a moment. "I built 43 restaurants," he said, "and I don't think I've looked closely at anything in about 4 years." She didn't say anything to that. She just kept drawing, which, Cole thought, was probably the right response. On the 3rd evening, Diane sat across from him at the dinner table, candlelight, good wine, the kind of dinner that looked exactly like a successful marriage from the outside, and she studied his face the way she had been doing all week. "You seem different," she said. "Different how?" Cole said. Calmer, she said. It's strange on you. He looked at her across the table, at the woman who had once sat across from him at a folding table, covered in spreadsheets, and believed in him before anyone else did. He tried to find the version of her that had done that. He wasn't sure she was still in there. Maybe I'm finally learning something, he said. She smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. On the fourth morning, Cole came downstairs at exactly his usual time. He poured coffee. He scrolled through emails at the kitchen counter. He was wearing his gray hoodie and his worn jeans, the same as always when he wasn't heading somewhere that required a suit. I rescheduled Flagstaff to today, he said. I'll be back by tomorrow evening. Diane looked up from her phone. Today? I thought you canceled that. Rescheduled, he said. The site team needs an answer before the end of the month. She set her phone down. She was very still for just a moment, the kind of stillness that comes before a decision gets made. The driver will be here at 9, she said. Should be, Cole said. She walked over and kissed his cheek. Drive safe, she said. I will, he said. He picked up his bag and walked toward the front door. He could feel her eyes on his back the entire way. In the back garden, Spencer was already waiting near the greenhouse, pretending to examine the rose beds, looking like a man who had no idea what to do with a rose. We're set, Spencer said quietly as Cole approached. 2 unmarked vehicles from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Detective Brianna Solis is running the operation. She's been briefed on everything. Cole nodded. Your actual driver is part of it. Spencer continued. He's been told the full situation. The man who shows up at the gate this morning is one of theirs. He knows the route they're planning to use. Cole looked toward the stone wall. Lily was there, notebook in her lap, watching them with the focused, calm of someone who understood more about what was happening than most adults in the situation would. Cole walked over. Today, he said quietly. She nodded. If you see Brett Calloway anywhere on this property today, you find your father immediately, Cole said. You don't approach him yourself. You understand? Yes, she said. Cole looked at her. You're not worried? She considered the question honestly. A little, she said. But my dad says if you do the right thing for the right reason, the scared part doesn't matter as much. Cole nodded slowly. He picked up his bag and walked around to the front of the house. The black sedan pulled through the gate at 9 o'clock exactly. Cole came through the front door, crossed the stone path, and walked toward the car. The driver stepped out and opened the rear door with his left hand. Cole noted it without reacting. Morning, Cole said. Good morning, Mr. Hunter, the driver said. Flat, controlled, the voice of a man working very hard at sounding normal. Cole got in. The door closed. The car moved down the long private driveway through the gate and turned out onto the road. Cole sent a single message to Spencer. In the car, the response came back in seconds. We have eyes on you. Stay steady. Cole put his phone in his jacket pocket and watched the desert slide past the window. For 12 minutes, the route looked correct. The road toward the I-17, the familiar stretch through North Scottsdale, the landscape he'd driven 3 times a week for the past 6 years. Then, at the junction where the highway ramp began, the car went straight instead of left. Cole looked at the road ahead, an industrial access road, warehouse facilities, long metal fencing. No pedestrians, no businesses, nothing moving in any direction. Taking a different route? Cole said. There's a slowdown reported on the 17, the driver said. This'll be faster. Cole looked at the empty road stretching ahead of them. The 17 doesn't slow down at this hour, he said. Not in this direction. The driver said nothing. They drove another 6 minutes. The buildings became more spread out. Gravel lots appeared behind chain-link fencing. And then, ahead on the right, a tall metal gate attached to a long concrete wall. No signage, no cameras visible from the road. The kind of facility that existed to be unnoticeable. The driver reached for a remote clipped near the dashboard. The metal gate began to grind open. Cole leaned slightly forward. You're not taking me to Flagstaff, Cole said. The driver's hands tightened on the wheel, but he kept his eyes on the gate. Sir, I told you. You were paid in cash, Cole said. That's why they chose you. No wire transfer, no record. Just a man with a commercial license and a debt situation that's been keeping him up at night, and someone who showed up with a number that looked like it could solve everything. The driver said nothing. I've been that man, Cole said. 20 years ago, I was sleeping in a pickup truck in a parking lot in Tempe. I understand what it feels like when someone offers you a way out and you don't ask enough questions about what the door looks like on the other side. The gate was fully open now. The car sat idling at the threshold. Beyond the gate was a concrete courtyard and a long single-story building with no windows facing the road. Here's what happens if you drive through that gate, Cole said. The people who hired you have already built enough distance to walk away from this. You're the one connection between the plan and the crime scene. You're the one who drove the car. They stay in their 5-star Scottsdale estate and talk to lawyers. You go to prison. Driver's jaw was tight. His hands were shaking slightly on the wheel. They told me nobody would get hurt, he said, his voice low. They said it was just about keeping you somewhere for a week or two, that it wasn't. It was kidnapping from the moment you turned onto this road, Cole said quietly. That's the legal reality regardless of what they told you it was. He let that settle. You still have a choice right now, Cole said. Drive through that gate and you're part of a federal kidnapping case. Turn this car around and you're a witness who cooperated from the start. Those are two very different lives. You have about 30 seconds to decide which one you want. The driver looked at the open gate, at the empty courtyard beyond it, at the building with no windows. Then he looked in the rearview mirror. At the end of the access road, 200 yards back, a dark SUV had appeared and was moving slowly toward them. Is that? The driver started. Maricopa County Sheriff, Cole said. They've been behind us since the estate. The driver stared at the approaching vehicle, then back at the gate, then back at the mirror. His entire future was suspended between those two directions. He put the car in reverse. The sedan rolled backward, slowly and steadily, away from the open gate, away from the concrete courtyard, away from the building with no windows. The driver turned the wheel and brought the car around, and as he did, the unmarked SUV pulled up directly in front of them and stopped. A second vehicle appeared behind them. Detective Brianna Solis stepped out of the lead SUV, badge visible, moving with the unhurried certainty of someone who had done this many times before. Cole sat in the back seat of the car that had been meant to erase him from his own life, and he breathed slowly and steadily, and he thought about a girl sitting on a stone wall with a notebook who had looked at a man opening a car door with the wrong hand and decided that small detail was worth paying attention to. Cole gave his full statement to Detective Solis at the scene, standing in the thin shade of the access road while the driver sat in the back of the second vehicle, already talking. The recording, Solis said. We need it. It's on the estate, Cole said. The girl who made it, her name is Lily Morrow. She's 12 years old and she made better decisions in the last 48 hours than most adults would have. Solis wrote down the name. And your wife, she's still at the estate? As far as I know, Cole said. She doesn't know the operation failed, Solis said. It wasn't a question. No, Cole said. Then we need to move quickly, Solis said. Because when people find out a plan has failed, they do unpredictable things. Cole rode back to the estate in the front of Solis's vehicle. He looked out the window at the Scottsdale desert, the saguaro, the dry hills, the impossible blue sky, and thought about 17 years. About a folding table covered in spreadsheets. About a woman who had once sat across from him and said, I believe in this. About how long something had to hollow out before it looked like something else entirely from the inside. The estate looked exactly the same when they pulled through the gate. The roses were blooming near the path. The greenhouse caught the afternoon light the way it always did. The G-Wagon sat in the open garage door where he'd left it. If you drove past this property at that moment, you would have seen a beautiful home in the Arizona sun, peaceful and still, with nothing in the world appearing to be wrong. Cole walked through the front door. Diane was in the living room, sitting on the sofa with a magazine, the way she always was on mornings when she had nothing scheduled. She looked up when he came in, and for just a fraction of a second, less than a second, really, her face showed something that wasn't surprise. Then the surprise arrived, and it looked right, and she stood up. You're back, she said. What happened? Did the meeting? The meeting didn't happen, Cole said. He set his bag down by the door. He took his jacket off and laid it over the chair near the entrance. He moved slowly, deliberately, the way he moved when he was thinking carefully about every step. "Cole, you're scaring me," she said. "You've been acting strange all week. What is going on?" He reached into his jacket pocket and took out his phone. He set it on the coffee table between them. He pressed play. The recording filled the living room. Her voice. Calm. Cold. That's it. The driver knows the route. No phone, no food. 22 million. She just has to wait. Diane did not move while the recording played. She stood completely still, and she listened to her own voice dismantle side, and she listened to her own voice dismantle everything. When it ended, the house was very quiet. "You were never supposed to hear that," she said. Her voice was different now. Smaller. "I know," Cole said. "I was supposed to get in the car." She didn't deny it. She didn't cry. She didn't reach for an explanation. She just stood there, and for the first time in 17 years, Cole saw the performance stop completely. Just a woman at the end of a road she had walked herself down with nowhere left to go. "I gave you 17 years, she said finally. Her voice was shaking slightly now, but steady underneath. "Do you know what that felt like, Cole? Do you have any idea? Charity galas with people I barely knew because my husband was on a private jet to close as another deal. Board dinners where people asked me about your portfolio because they couldn't think of anything to ask about me. Going to sleep alone in a 6-bedroom house on a 6-acre estate because the person whose name is on the gate was always somewhere else." Cole listened without interrupting. "I waited," she said. "I waited when you said the company needed 2 more years. I waited when you said the expansion would settle down. I waited when you said next year would be different. And next year was never different, Cole. It was always another acquisition, another resort property, another restaurant opening. So I stopped waiting." "And you decided to kill me," Cole said quietly. Her eyes filled, but her voice stayed level. "I decided I wasn't going to spend the next 5 years in lawyers' offices fighting for what I'd earned. The house is in your name. The portfolio is in your name. The company is in your name. A divorce meant years of litigation against your team of attorneys. But if you disappeared, Brett showed you the numbers," Cole said. A small hesitation. "The first one. Brett showed me what I was actually worth in this marriage," she said, "which was not very much." The front door opened. Detective Solis stepped inside, badge in hand, 2 officers behind her. "Mrs. Hunter," Solis said, "I need you to come with us. We have questions regarding a conspiracy to commit kidnapping and insurance fraud." Diane closed her eyes, just for a moment. The kind of closing that means you already knew this was coming and you have been preparing for it for longer than anyone realized. Then she opened them. She looked at Cole one last time. "I did love you," she said quietly. "In the beginning. I really did." Cole looked at her for a long moment. "I know," he said. "That's what makes it the hardest thing to understand." The officers guided her toward the door. She didn't resist. She walked out of the living room, past the entryway, past the photographs on the wall, the galas, the openings, the charity events, 17 years of performed happiness preserved in frames, and out through the front door into the Arizona afternoon. Cole stood in the living room and listened to the cars pull away down the long private driveway. Then the house was completely quiet. He walked out to the garden. The late afternoon light was moving across the grounds in long gold strips, the way it did in Arizona in the early fall, warm and sideways and full of dust. The greenhouse glowed softly in it. Ray Morrow was near the back fence, putting his tools away. He straightened when he saw Cole coming, and Cole shook his head slightly. "You don't have to stop," Cole said. Ray nodded and kept working. Cole walked to the stone wall. Lily was sitting there, notebook in her lap, pencil in her hand, watching him walk toward her with the same calm attention she gave everything. She waited until he sat down beside her before she spoke. "Is it over?" she said. "The first part," Cole said. "There'll be lawyers and courts and a lot of long days after this. But the part where I was in danger, yes, that's over." She nodded slowly. They sat quietly for a moment. The desert wind moved through the rose garden and the greenhouse and the tall grass at the back of the estate. "Are you sad?" Lily asked. Cole looked out across the grounds, the property he had built and named and poured the last 20 years into, which had somehow become a place where he was a stranger to his own life. "Yes," he said. but not because of the things most people would expect. She waited. "I'm sad because I built all of this," he said slowly, "and I forgot to actually be in it. I thought providing the estate, the income, the security, I thought that was the same thing as showing up. It isn't." He paused. "I learned that this week from a 12-year-old girl sitting on a garden wall. After a moment, she said, 'My dad says you can't take care of a garden from a distance. You have to be there. You have to actually look." Cole nodded. He reached into his jacket and took out a small envelope. He held it for a moment, then set it on the wall beside her. He looked at it but didn't touch it. "What is it?" she said. "It's a trust in your name," Cole said. "For school, for college, for whatever you decide you want to become. It's not a payment. You didn't save my life because you expected anything in return. I know that." He looked at her. "This is me making sure that someone who does the right thing at the right moment for the right reason has more choices in front of her." She looked at the envelope for a long moment. Then she picked it up carefully with both hands. "Can I tell you something?" Cole said. She nodded. "I've signed contracts worth tens of millions of dollars," he said. "I've shaken hands with senators and developers and hotel groups and investors. And the most important decision anyone made in my life this week was made by someone who noticed that a man opened a car door with the wrong hand." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "My dad says most people stop looking when things seem fine." "Your dad is right," Cole said. He stood up from the wall and looked across the estate one more time. The greenhouse, the roses, the long driveway curving toward the gate. 3 months later, Brett Calloway was convicted on conspiracy to commit kidnapping and insurance fraud charges. He received a 12-year sentence. In the courtroom on the last day of the trial, he looked across at Cole and said nothing. But his face said everything, the particular expression of a man who has had a very long time to understand that the shortcut he chose was, in fact, the longest road. Diane pleaded guilty to reduced charges after the recording, the bank transfers, and the driver's full testimony made trial inadvisable. Her attorney negotiated. Her sentence was lighter, but the estate, the accounts, the portfolio, none of it came to her. She walked out of the courthouse in the clothes she was wearing, into a city that had known her as a philanthropist and now knew her as something else entirely. Cole did not attend the sentencing. He was in Scottsdale, sitting in the garden. The Cole Hunter Group continued to grow, but something about the way it was run changed. Cole began showing up to his restaurants unannounced, not to test anyone, but simply to be there. To eat at the counter and talk to the line cooks and sit at the stat at the chef's table, and what the business had actually started. As before it became a portfolio, he put a smaller office in the greenhouse. He started keeping a notebook on the stone wall, and on a quiet Saturday morning 6 months after the trial, Cole Hunter sat on a low stone wall in his garden next to a girl who was drawing the estate the way it looked in the early fall light. And he understood something that no acquisition, no resort property, no 8-figure deal had ever taught him. The most dangerous thing in his life had not been the gate on that access road in Scottsdale. It had not been the car with the wrong license plate. It had not been the plan that had been built over 8 months by 2 people who believed he wouldn't notice. The most dangerous thing had been the years he had spent moving so fast that he stopped seeing what was right in front of him. A child sitting on a garden wall had seen what he missed. And because she chose to speak up, even knowing what it might cost her, even knowing she might be wrong, even knowing she was 12 years old, and he was the man whose name was on the gate, he was still here. "What are you drawing today?" Cole asked. Lily turned the notebook so he could see. The greenhouse, the stone wall, 2 small figures sitting side by side in the morning light. "So we don't forget," she said. Cole looked at the drawing for a long moment. "No," he said, "we won't. This story is a work of fiction created to explore the kind of moments that change how we see ourselves. The characters and events are not real, but the question at the heart of it is, how many things have you stopped noticing because you were moving too fast to look? And who in your life has been sitting on that stone wall, watching closely, waiting for the moment you finally slowed down? If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not because of an algorithm. Because stories like this remind us why it matters to pay attention to the people around us, to the small details, and to the quiet courage it takes to say something when everyone else stays silent. That kind of courage deserves to be heard.